Hey, getting ready to kick off week 4 tonight with an AFC North battle in Pittsburgh. Also, happy October, a great month for all of us sports fans. Thank you for hanging with us here on First Take. Skip Bayless, Stephen A. Smith,
what up?
Karam, all here in the house.
Hey,
we got the great pumpkin with us today, right? I like it. I like it. I do. I seriously do.
You ain't talking with
It's
That's
for
for
the
October.
first of October.
I know. I like
Y'all
it.
want to hate on me? This
I'm not hating.
We're not.
I like it.
All right.
We're not. You look very cute in orange.
All right,
but
Miss
Skip,
Connecticut.
that
I see you. I see
that
you.
suit really is on point.
Oh, thank you.
I like that.
Oh, well, you don't
I
have to
really
say
do.
that.
Please. Please. Oh, my Lord.
Piling on.
Kissing up. Are you
You guys
kidding me?
love a pumpkin picking.
Oh, please. Please. You got to be crazy.
Get some apple cider.
Let's go. Let's go.
Haunted house. It's gonna be one of those days coming up.
We
got
gotta
to
get serious.
Yes.
Right.
Game face clinched the AL East last night, forcing Stephen A's Yanks. I really am piling on to fight for the wild card spot. How worried is our Mr. Yankee? Plus, LeBron says there'll be no love lost on the Cavs this season. We'll explain that later in the program. But first, it's Thursday, so you all know what that means. Football. AFC North rivals face off in Pittsburgh. We know they'll both be fired up for this one. The winless Ravens take on the 2-1 Steelers. Now, with Ben Roethlisberger out 4 to 6 weeks with a knee injury, Michael Vick will get the nod for the Steelers, who last year ranked last in total QBR, completion percentage, and yards per attempt. On the other side, take a look at how Big Ben has fared against the Ravens, 11-7 compared to other Steelers quarterbacks, 1-6. No bueno. Check out the difference in yards per game as well. So initially, Pittsburgh was a 3.5-point favorite. Now with Ben out, Baltimore is a 2.5-point favorite on the road. Stephen A., will the Ravens get their first win this season tonight?
Molly, a.k.a. Miss Connecticut. Skip Bayless.
Yeah.
Skip Bayless.
Yeah, a.k.a. hater.
Yeah. I'm glad you know it. Glad you said it. Let me say this to you. Seriously speaking, the Ravens are in a desperate situation.
They are.
They have absolutely got to win this game, or in my estimation, this season is over.
Yep.
I believe the Ravens will lose this game. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to win this game. When I think about the Ravens, Skip Bayless, there are two things that really jump out at me. Where is Justin Forsett? He has not been running the football effectively at all after having a breakout season last year in the aftermath of the whole Ray Rice fiasco. I don't know if he's feeling himself or the offensive line isn't protecting him, but they must be doing something right because Joe Flacco is passing the football relatively well. I think that when you look at the problems in Baltimore's offense, it's twofold. One is that they don't seem to have any kind of a running game whatsoever. And two is because Steve Smith Sr. seems to be the only individual that they could throw the football to. So the absence of weapons at the receiver spot combined with the absence of a running game has really neutralized them to some degree. Didn't stop them from putting up 30 on the Oakland Raiders, of course. And it didn't stop them from coming back and taking the lead against Cincinnati because they got so much heart. But nevertheless, something was clearly missing. Something is clearly missing. And then when I remember also, the other thing that we get just on the offensive side of the ball, on the defensive side of the ball, once upon a time we were raving about the Ravens secondary, okay? We were raving about them. And then you looked at them against and how they opened the season against Denver. That's one of the things that escalated the question marks about Peyton Manning. And yet you see these guys, the past 2 weeks, they've given up 723 yards passing and 6 touchdown passes. It's the last 2 weeks. Now, they're going against a Pittsburgh Steelers offense without Big Ben Roethlisberger, with a Michael Vick, who is no Big Ben Roethlisberger. We do understand that. But they do have Le'Veon Bell back. They still have D'Angelo Williams, who filled in admirably in Le'Veon Bell's absence over the first 2 games due to the substance abuse violation. Then we also take into account the fact that you still have Antonio Brown. You still have Marcus Wheaton. You still have a Heath Shuler, okay? So all of those requisite weapons that you have at your disposal, the only thing that gives me cause other than Big Ben being out is that Pouncey is out as well, so protection may be an issue for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But then I remember that Terrell Suggs got injured, and he's out for the year. And McPhee got moved away, and he left for Chicago. So the combination of those 2 premier pass rushers for the Ravens, who are no longer in the lineup, combining that with the Ravens' secondary issues because guys like A.J. Green seem to do what they want, when they want it, how they want it. I think it's a lot for the Ravens to overcome. If this game were in Baltimore, I would say that the Ravens would have the edge, despite everything that I said, because the adrenaline and the momentum from that home crowd, combined with Michael Vick being on the road, I think would be too much for them to overcome. But because it's in Pittsburgh, I'm going to pick just as much heart as it is head, and I'm going to roll with the Steelers to win tonight's game. I think it'll be close, like 20-19 until the fourth quarter arrives, and then I think the Steelers will pull away and they'll win something along the lines of 32-19.
32. I'm writing that down.
32-19.
I cannot disagree with one point that you made, except for your conclusion. I'm going to go with the Ravens tonight, but I think you'll be able to appreciate how my emotions are mixed by the two quarterbacks.
Sure.
Michael Vick is one of the great redemption stories in the history of professional sports.
Without question.
I don't want to walk back through all of it. You know, obviously, I'm a dog lover. I don't forget, but I definitely have forgiven Michael Vick. And I throw that out there just because what he has done to rehabilitate not only his image, but just his whole being, the way he carries himself, which I find 100% authentic and genuine, is it is up there with some of the greatest things I've seen off the field in all my time covering sports. So I have become, and I know the dog lovers are going to say, how can you say this? But I've become a Michael Vick fan.
That would be because he's become a good man.
He has become a good man. And I get that. My heart tells me his heart is in the right place. Even about dogs, it's in the right place.
And I also believe in Mike Tomlin because I believe Mike Tomlin wouldn't bring him on unless he was a good man.
All right. He is now facing a quarterback I have often criticized on this show. I have called Joe Flacco many times Joe Fluco on this show because when you least expect it, talk about QBRs, he'll throw you one of those 0.3 QBRs. When you least expect it, he can be Fluco. But I keep looking at his numbers at this stadium, and he is 4-6 against Pittsburgh at Pittsburgh. That's a really good bottom line, that you've beaten this team 4 times, at your arch rival, 4 times in its stadium in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, including last year's first round of the playoffs, which led on to the New England game, which became very controversial. But remember, Flacco was great against Pittsburgh last year in the playoffs. So the last time Pittsburgh saw him at Pittsburgh, he lit him up. I think he's going to do it again tonight. I think he just has Pittsburgh's number at Pittsburgh. And here's my issue. Even though I root for Michael Vick, as you well know, last year for quarterbacks who had 100 or more attempts, he had the worst QBR, scale of 0 to 100, in all of pro football. Last year, his completion percentage for the Jets was the worst in pro football. His completion percentage has declined over the last 3 seasons, down, down, down. And now I'm back to your point that you have driven home to me. Man, he's like a punch-drunk fighter, right? A boxer. Am I right? Like you have cauliflower, not ear, but body. Like everything's beat up. You have taken such a beating for so long that the cumulative impact of that, I'm going to use your line, he gets hit in the ribs and he grabs his head.
In Philadelphia. Mike Vick knows where I stand with that.
Yep.
I mean, it used to drive me crazy.
Yep.
When he was in Philadelphia, I thought he was on suicide watch, for crying out loud, because of the lack of protection that he was getting from that offensive line. I just thought that he was like the Walking Dead. And I remember one time, I forgot who it was, for Arizona, when they caught him, the Eagles were at the 2-yard line.
Yep, I remember this.
Yeah. And he got hit, and he dropped like a corpse.
And he dropped the football.
And he dropped the football and
the
went the other way,
yeah, okay.
For 6 points.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable how much he got hit in Philadelphia.
Okay, so I know that Mike Tomlin loves him some Michael Vick. They went to the same high school in Virginia. Mm-hmm. Okay, my issue is, and I asked you this yesterday, are you sure Mike Tomlin didn't bring him in as his backup to Big Ben more with his heart than his head? Maybe, because now you're thrown into a short week prep situation to throw Michael Vick into the fire of an offense that we all agree has lots of weapons, except the quarterback he's replacing plays completely differently than Michael Vick plays. So you're going to just change horses in midstream, so to speak? Really?
Those are good points. I can't argue with any of your points either. But let me ask you this question, and this is a legit, serious question. I really want to know what your thoughts are about this. Skip Bayless, in my opinion, there's no way in hell that Michael Vick should have been on the outside looking for a job. A starting job is one thing, but a backup job in this league, I know at least 10 starters that he could be in the NFL ahead of. Let me ask you this question. When you look at Michael Vick, regardless of your questions, how much of that is about what you're saying in terms of cauliflower, taking hits, in terms of his lack of production? How much is it about that, or how much is it about you, not emotionally, but internally just asking yourself the question, wait a minute, why didn't anybody pick him up? Maybe there's something really, really missing here. How much of it is that? Because I think that if he had come in a Steelers camp from the beginning of training camp, and that's just where he landed, I'm not sure if any of us would have the questions to this degree that we have now. It's the fact that nobody seemed to want to touch him that really resonates with me. What do you think about that?
Michael Vick's comments to the New York media last year indicated he was nearing retirement, like he was considering this, I'm going to hang him up.
Okay.
And it felt like the rest of the league thought it was about time for him to hang him up.
Got it.
And even you agreed with me when Mike Tomlin shocked us all by bringing in Michael Vick to replace Landry Jones as the backup quarterback. Even you said, man, this is probably his last hurrah. Like nobody else would have given him this last stop.
But
right?
I didn't think he deserved that. I just think he had issues with the dog lovers.
Okay, well, I'm sure that plays some role.
And then I think that the durability issue
that's huge.
Definitely is a huge deal for me.
All right?
Yeah.
Okay, so given that, you have now picked your Pittsburgh Steelers to score 32 points tonight with Michael Vick at quarterback. Boy, that's putting a lot of pressure on him, and I think your expectations are awfully high.
Well, let me tell you why I don't think it's awful high, because I think Le'Veon Bell is considered, largely the best running back in football, not just because of his ability to run, but his ability to combo running back that he is. Like Adrian Peterson's got more yards than anybody as a running back in the NFL at this particular moment in time. But the bottom line is he can't catch out of the backfield the way Le'Veon Bell can, which is why Le'Veon Bell is so appreciated.
All right.
So if you're Michael Vick in Pittsburgh and you've got an offensive coordinator like Todd Haley with Mike Tomlin watching over him, insisting you dip and dunk to a Le'Veon Bell, then suddenly you're Michael Vick, and it ain't called upon you to just drop back and try to fling that football. You've got guys that you can hit in short yardage situations with him and Antonio Brown more than capable of making plays after the catch.
Okay.
And I think that limits the risk of Michael Vick. So therefore, you're not asking Michael Vick to be the one to produce those 32 points that I predicted. I'm leaning on Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown and Marcus Wheaton and Heath Shuler and those boys. That's the difference.
Okay, I agree, but not to compare Brandon Whedon to Michael Vick, but I saw what happened to my Cowboys, and I like Brandon Whedon, but when you throw him in there, it doesn't look the same anymore. And I don't think the Steelers
had a lot
are
more
gonna,
time with that team.
He's been there for 2 years.
Yep.
Michael Vick is on a short week. My goodness, that's a lot to ask him. I think he's going to have his struggles tonight. Okay.
By the way, I meant Heath Miller. I'm sorry.
Heath Miller. Yeah. I know. You got it. Okay, so now back to the Ravens. I'm going to dig in on this. I still think they're being underrated. Again, our power rankings, voted upon by our writers on ESPN.com, have them all the way down at 22.
Yep.
But our analytics department hangs right in there and says, no, they're the 11th best team in pro football.
Well, that's ridiculous.
Okay, well, let's see. I don't know if it's ridiculous.
I don't know if you could say 11 when you 0-3.
Okay, but how did they get to 0-3? They could have won all three of them, and two of them are against really good teams.
But Skip, they lost to the Oakland Raiders. Now, wait.
I know, at Oakland, there's no cakewalk anymore. That's no gimme.
Excuse me. We're learning that there's the possibility that they're not a cakewalk anymore. We're not sure yet. We're not sure.
Remember what happened. Flacco was throwing into the end zone in the opener at Denver. And made a great throw to Crockett Gilmore, and I thought it was going to be a touchdown, and two Broncos fly across and break it up and intercept the pass. It was a great play, and it cost them at the buzzer the game. And then they had to stay out west because they had to play the Oakland Raiders at Oakland. And they lost Terrell Suggs. Okay, I keep saying Terrell
okay.
Suggs.
Yep. Right.
Okay, they lose him in the fourth quarter, late in the game against Peyton Manning.
Yeah, and it was
So
the
now-
game at the time. Oh,
okay,
there's
there's a little hangover going on, and then they're ahead of the Oakland Raiders, and they give up a late touchdown pass.
The Bengals.
No,
You
no,
mean last week?
no. I'm talking about the Raiders
Okay,
when they had to stay out west.
Right.
They're ahead of them, and it took a late touchdown pass by Derek Carr out of the blue to beat them 37-33.
I want to hear anything about staying out west. What the hell were they in? The Motel 6? I'm sure
Well,
they were chilling.
well, it's
They
just
were in the Ritz-Carlton or
Well, they
whatever.
didn't get to go home.
Mandarin out there.
Okay, how often does that happen during an NFL season?
I understand.
Rarely.
I understand
Rarely.
it's foreign, but that's like giving the Jets or the Dolphins an excuse that London, they got to fly to London. How often do you do that?
Right.
So whoever goes out there, somebody got to win. Come on now. I can't use that
Justin
as an excuse.
Forsett is being underrated. He will have a good game tonight. He'll have a better game than he's had because he had no game.
He was fantastic last year.
I know he was
I don't know why he's not running.
And you know what? Steve Smith, your namesake, or are you his namesake? I'm not which way.
Well, I am older. I am
older.
older.
Okay, you're older. But speaking of getting older, the older he gets to me, the better he gets.
You
I'm
lit it up
serious.
the other night.
I mean, he's Steve Smith Senior. We keep emphasizing senior.
It's going to be a good matchup
you know
between him and Mike Mitchell.
He's still playing like he's a junior to me.
Listen,
Am I right?
I have him on both my fantasy teams. I know
that
you guys aren't
explains it.
into
That's
that,
all.
but I believe
Yeah,
him.
of course, that makes a world of difference.
That's all that matters.
Be quiet.
So this show is over because Molly's got it on his
Exactly.
You guys are missing out on
We should
life.
just stop
Fantasy
talking.
is fun.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Okay.
Now America believes in Steve Smith.
All right, so bottom line.
They always did.
I'm going to go. I don't think Michael Vick can score more than, I'm going to throw this out, 23 points. And I got Flacco scoring 25. Just an odd little score, but 25-23 Flacco over Vick. That's what I'm boiling it down.
32-19.
All right, you got it.
Let's roll.
All right, moving on.